who are you and where are you from?
My name is Diego Molina-Castrillon. I'm originally from Bogota, Colombia, and I've grown up most of my life here in Miami, Florida.
All right, and what do you do?
I'm a program manager at the Clio Institute. We're a nonprofit organization focused on education and advocacy around climate change in Florida.
And your job specifically within the Clio Institute?
So I'm the schools and youth program manager, so I manage a lot of our programs dealing with high school students and middle school students, education mostly about climate literacy and climate change directly impacting their communities.
All right, and so has the climate changed much since you were a kid? Have you noticed any changes?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I grew up here right around middle school. We're talking about maybe 20 years ago or so. And I remember our first days of class, usually mid-August, and people, you were still out in the sun, and it was perfectly okay for you to be out in the sun. And as a former teacher a couple of years ago, school year was starting, and we started noticing that some of our students being out in the sun were starting to get sick. So just that, the intense heat that we're experiencing here in South Florida is evident just between 20 years ago and what we're seeing now.
All right, and well, I mean, on an everyday basis, you deal with the climate. What are the kids telling you, and are they how on a? I mean, is there a general sense of climate change among them, or are they concerned? Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, are kids? You find kids are really concerned or not that concerned at all? They're really just growing up.
Yeah, I think people will be surprised at how concerned the students are, because we sometimes think of teenagers as being just very much in the moment and worried about their own lives, very selfish in that way. But they're starting to see, or they've been seeing for a couple of years, the way that the environment used to be before, and the way that they used to have access to certain resources and things that they are no longer having access to. So students are very much aware about climate change, and they're interested in figuring out how they can get involved in it. And I think that it's a beautiful thing to see them wanting to engage their communities, the public at large, and how they can continue to fight this.
And so you see a high concern among the youth. And what do you got? What do you do? Do you go out and clean up stuff, or what do you do with the kids?
So we focus on advocacy, even though we understand that there's beautiful initiatives that have immediate gratification, such as like cleanups. We try to teach the students that to have long-term effect, you have to address a policy issue. So we teach them how to understand and how the policies are directly impacting their communities. And that's the way that we try to engage the students. And we tell them, look, cleanups and that kind of thing has an immediate effect, but ultimately, if policy doesn't change, we're going to be out here every weekend cleaning the beaches, cleaning the mangroves. So we have to address the policy side. We have to go to commissioner meetings. We have to talk to our local leaders or local elected officials so that we can make everlasting change instead of just cleanups every week.
Wow. And
Yeah.
and then what about the future? Should we be optimistic, pessimistic, and what can we do?
I think as we grow up, we tend to be a little pessimistic, and we just, because of life happens, we end up being cynical. And the beautiful thing about my job being engaged with the youth is they don't have that cynicism yet. They have a lot of hope, and they have this strong belief that they can make change. And I know it sounds cliche, but they're the ones that give me hope. When you see students contacting their commissioners and, like holding truth to power, that's what keeps me optimistic, making sure that I provide them with the tools to continue that good fight. That keeps me optimistic, and knowing that they do want to continue the fight. They understand that it's difficult. They understand that there's a lot of challenges, but they very much are aware of the power that they have, regardless of their whether voting age or not. And yeah, that keeps me optimistic about the future.
All right. I guess one final question. I mean, have you seen any concrete changes?
Any concrete changes? Yeah. So as a clear example, I mean, we're in Miami Beach. Miami is the first city in the world to have a chief heat officer. That was not a thing that was happening before, and thanks to our activism, thanks to all this local advocacy, our local government understood that people need to learn about the impacts of extreme heat. So we have a local chief heat officer, and now we're seeing this same model being replicated in other parts around the world. So we're seeing these small changes happen. People are coming up with real plans. There's a lot more education happening in the communities to fight climate change, to become more resilient community. And although they're small steps, we are going in the right direction. We just got to keep working for it.
All right, today on the 3rd of February, here at the Botanic Garden here in Miami Beach. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.